New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Good afternoon, good evening, well, depending where you are in the world. I'm Barbara Jean, your host, and now the good news. Well, this first story is, truly great. And when you see the picture, you might realize you can't speak Japanese, but let me share with you what it actually says. Keep scrolling. This almost too kind 7-Eleven owner had what he had to say to his customers. Located in several cities in Niigata Prefecture, Western Japan, signs inviting customers to come in and cool off suddenly popped up at 3 such convenience stores. If you feel unwell and think it may be heat stroke, please don't push yourself. Come inside and cool off, the friendly notice, devoured by social media, read. There is no need to purchase anything out of courtesy. Please focus solely on recovering your strength. Wow. So the words weren't written originally by 63-year-old store and franchise owner Tetsuya, but he adopted them after seeing a similar notice online during last year's scorching summer. He was at the time wondering what he could do to help his community. The first viral post of the notice appeared on X, where 500,000 people liked it, and was shared in translated versions by overseas accounts. As the 90-degree days turned into bitterly cold winters, Mr. Takahashi switched out the friendly signs with new ones. You must be tired of driving on snowy roads. Then please don't hesitate to come inside and warm up. The new sign read with a similar assurance that no purchase need be made. We pray for your safety, it concluded. The response to the sign was especially enthusiastic at the Azumi parking area near the city of Nagaoka, which is an area known for heavy snowfall where truck drivers often sleep in their cabs. Sharing the longest running English language daily in Japan, Takahashi explained that his goal was to pay forward the kindness which he received while traveling a decade ago. Suffering heat stroke, he sought refuge in a restaurant where the owners took care of him until he recovered. He never forgot the simple acts of kindness, giving him cold water and leading him to the coolest seat, and hopes that others may likewise recover in one of his convenience stores. Even small acts of kindness can come full circle, Takahashi told the newspaper. How beautiful is that? You see, our world is filled with beautiful, friendly, marvelous people. Okay, so here's some guys who, found a way to make a difference. Inventors' microfiber laundry filter is already keeping tons of fossil fuel fibers out of the environment. An English inventor has partnered with home appliance giant Bosch to produce a laundry machine filter for artificial microfibers, the world's most significant source of microplastic pollution. You've got to be a bit eco-conscious to fork over the $250 or so to buy the food processor size device that hooks right up to a home washing machine. But the home market is just one direction that inventor Adam Root is pursuing. Microplastic pollution may be the world's largest public health threat. The tiny fragments are found everywhere in the world. A scientist has cared to look, including in every human organ and tissue, from the brain to the placenta. Scientists are aware of their potential health consequences, but research has concretely demonstrated that microplastics dysregulate hormones, at least, and are linked to a variety of other conditions, including stunted growth, reduced fertility, and stomach, kidney, and liver problems. Many people will equate the plastic bottle floating in the sea to the pollution, but the largest source are microfibers and come from two sources: artificial clothing and textiles, and tire tread wear. Root says that every load of home laundry will ultimately shed about a gram of tiny fossil fuel based thread filaments, and that these are typically washed out of the machine and into the sewage system to join rivers and eventually the sea. That's why Root is working to pioneer his easy to install, self cleaning, and filterless device at scale to textile plants and industrial washing operations. The most common thing we hear is, "I cannot believe how much material is coming out of the washing machine." Somebody sent me photos of dinner platefuls. Wow. Additional benefits is the filtering out of normal fabric fibers that are chock full of synthetic dyes and other chemicals that do our biology no favors either. So Root and his company, Matter Industries, which makes the filter device, aren't waiting around for the citizens of the world to all miraculously find $250 to spend on something that will have no measurable effect on the benefit of their lives, and is instead going right to the source, to the factories that made artificial textiles. Part of the manufacturing process for these textiles is dyeing and washing, which will release 360 metric tons of microfibers in 1 year in a single factory. These large industrial washing operations are prime targets for filtration. Root has additionally campaigned in the UK to get a version of his filtration device on wastewater treatment plants that will handle discharge from home washing machines. Wow. So the German manufacturing giants Bosch and Siemens have already teamed up with Matter to expand Root's efforts, and $20 million in fundraising has already seen him and his team take big steps toward getting the technology out in the world. Good job, gentlemen. Good job. That is fantastic. All right. So, community spares no effort to reunite a lost dog with the owner after their car was rolled in a crash. Ouch. After a serious crash on a rural British Columbia highway, a woman and her husband had to search for days to find their missing dog, Daisy. Along the way, they experienced just about every kind of help imaginable until 96 hours after their crash, they were reunited with their Australian Shepherd. Dira Jordan and her husband Sharon were struck in Kelowna, BC by a pickup truck that ran the pair of them off the road. Their car rolled over and Jordan suffered a series of small injuries. When the crashing and rolling stopped, all Jordan could think about was Daisy, her dog who wasn't there. Ignorant of her injuries, she began to search until, at the insistence of first responders, she was taken to the nearest hospital. It was soon obvious that nothing serious was hiding under her scrapes and bruising, and the doctor eagerly discharged Jordan to go look for her dog. Meanwhile, while responding to another call, a local member of the all-volunteer Central Okanagan Search and Rescue asked the Royal Canadian Mounted Police about the sirens he had heard earlier, and was told that two cars had rolled over on the highway near Kelowna. Rescue member Forrest Kellerman got home and looked up more information on Jordan and Daisy's crash and saw a notice that an Australian Shepherd was missing. Whether it was the passion of finding people that saw him join the search and rescue volunteers, or whether it was his own Australian Shepherd staring him in the eye that afternoon, but Kellerman and his wife Tracy decided they were going to go find Daisy and bring her home safely. The next day, they spent hours searching the area around the crash site. The day after that, they met Dara and Sharon and had hardly slept since the crash. By then, the whole community had got wind of their ordeal and came out to help, either physically searching, providing a thermal imaging drone, or even just bringing out a hot meal. People were bringing us food, satellite links, everything imaginable, like Volunteers were coming out of the woodworks, just complete strangers. It was so emotional. On the fourth day, Tracy still felt compelled to go look for Daisy, and so the Kellermans went to the crash site where Tracy decided to do what could have been described as the obvious in the immediate vicinity of the collision. The man who hit Jordan with his truck was still hospitalized with serious injuries, and his truck was still lying in the brush. And guess where the puppy was? Approaching, Tracy suddenly saw movement, a small face with big eyes. It was Daisy. She was sitting on the passenger seat. Sometimes you have to look in the most obvious place first. Anyway, good news to get that beautiful pup back to its family. All right, well, staggering results. Oh, forget that. We're going to take a commercial break. I just about forgot about commercials. We're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be back in just a minute with more good news. Do not go away. Be sure to stick around. We'll be back.
Please help us say thank you to all of our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperlin Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Center for Spiritual Living United Life, Sunshine Cathedral, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Universal Joy Center, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center, Ottawa, Home Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. On behalf of New Thought Media Network, thank you. And please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network. Come be you.
And now more good news. Well, there is a great story about HIV. So staggering results show HIV transmission reduced 100% with twice yearly lenacapavir injections. Wow. So a two-stage trial testing a new and acclaimed HIV prevention drug has shown almost unthinkable results of no new infections among a sample size of 3,200 participants. Called Purpose 1, the aim of the first trial was testing a subcutaneous injection of the drug lenacapavir given twice a year to people in a high HIV incidence country, which in this case was Uganda or South Africa. The results were nothing short of extraordinary. 100% efficacy. Not a single young woman contracted HIV. This was followed by Purpose 2, which expanded the geographical area significantly to more countries on more continents and expanded the pool of individuals from beyond just young women to men and to those of all ages. 5,000 participants took part. The result was the same, 99.9% reduction in infection rates. Both were considered phase 3 clinical trials and were conducted in a randomized double-blind protocol, but were not tested against a placebo. Instead, the lenacapavir injections were compared to the current standard of HIV prevention, a pill called Truvada or Descovy taken daily. These both were also found to prevent HIV transmission by 99.9% during development, but must be taken every day to achieve this level of protection. As anyone who's tried to stick to a once-a-day pill regime long-term will agree, it's not an easy thing to maintain month after month. By contrast, the twice-yearly injections are much easier to adhere to, and they also come with the added benefit of removing the social stigma of being seen taking a daily pill and therefore at risk of HIV transmission. This can be particularly alleviating in high HIV prevalent countries where male homosexuality is illegal, such as Uganda. Indeed, the superiority of a twice yearly injection was so clear that both purpose trials were halted early over ethical reasons. A 52-week follow up screened for HIV developments. Lenacapavir was named the Science magazine as the breakthrough of the year in 2024 and was approved by the FDA for use in humans under the brand name Yeztugo. It works to break down the HIV's capsid shell by binding to a highly conserved protein on the exterior. That means that no matter how many times or into what form the virus mutates, the exterior shell protein remains, presenting the perfect target for the drug. In layman's terms, the drug then works through the protein to disrupt the shell, which the virus takes down and builds up several times during its life cycle with perfect geometric precision. This disruption prevents the virus from completing its life cycle. Well, there's some good news on the HIV front. Well, here's a cool story. Now, I remember when I was in Arizona at the Grand Canyon looking for a condor, but I never did see one. Well, here's a picture. Last month, a California condor flew into Oregon before returning after several hundred miles to its home in Redwoods National Park, becoming the first condor recorded in the state since 1904. Taking a closer look, condor conservationists among Northern California's Yurok tribe concluded it was condor B9, an animal that had been born in captivity and released into the wild in 2022 by the Yurok. The animal flew a grand total of 380 miles and 4 days in a loop, starting high in the Redwoods before passing Redding in Northern California and then entering Oregon. It made stops near Medford, Cave Junction, and Brookings before recrossing straight lines and returning to the national park. Yurok Tribe Wildlife Department Director Tiana Williams-Clausen told the Oregon Organization for Public Broadcasting that B9 is an especially curious bird. She flew almost 100 miles per day, which means she was really utilizing the landscape the way that only a condor can, really taking advantage of those mountains and riverways that give good flight corridors. Whew. Well, I was hoping to see one while I was traveling, but maybe next time, maybe next time. Okay, well, here's a cool thing. A mouse with a severed spinal cord recovers normal movement after potentially revolutionary treatment. It's an impressive early demonstration of a potentially revolutionary technology. Biotech engineers in Zurich used micro-sized robots and stem cells to restore normal movement in a mouse whose spinal cord was entirely severed. The tech was also demonstrated in zebrafish, and the engineers behind the demonstration say it brings multiple advantages over existing similar methods. Spinal cord injuries can have devastating consequences for those affected. Nerve cells in the spinal cord rarely regenerate naturally, while scarring often prevents the regrowth of nerve fibers. Implantable electrode nerve stimulation is a method that can repair nerve damage in humans and animals by injecting the area with stem cells and using electrical stimulation to promote the growth of new nerve cells. It can restore some lost movement, but significant challenges exist. It requires implanting electrodes into an extremely sensitive area, and the transplanted cells do not always survive or integrate properly into the existing tissue. Researchers at ETH Zurich, one of the world's top 10 engineering schools, are pursuing a new approach, which they have published in the journal Nature Materials. It involves combining therapeutic stem cells with nanoparticles, which can be guided magnetically to the precise site of an injury and stimulate the stem cells to accelerate repair. The first step is to take a patient's skin sample and turn it into induced pluripotent stem cells, which will then turn into neuroprogenitor cells, NPCs, that's easier, that can take the form of nerve cells. Next, nanoparticles are created with an inner layer that responds to magnetic fields and an outer layer that converts this response into electrical signals. They're cleverly combined in a culture medium on a laboratory 1 square centimeter in area, ooh, that's small, creating the NPC bots. In about 30 minutes, the cells and the nanoparticles combine, and once several million of these are extracted, the therapy is ready. The researchers tested the NPC bots on zebrafish, whose spinal cord can repair itself naturally, and in mice. The zebrafish exhibited quick, substantial, and lasting improvements in movement. In the mouse model, more relevant certainly for potential human use, the results were very promising. After 28 days, the animal's nerve cells at each end of the severed spinal column reconnected. During this period, the treated mice exhibited increasingly normal movement patterns. Their gait, stride length, coordination, and exploratory behavior improved significantly. The treatment was well tolerated by the animals with no evidence of any adverse effects or immune reactions. Well, that could be good news moving forward for people who've had a spinal cord injury. All righty. Well, here we are. Chicago home builder lauded for halting construction just to save a killdeer nest. Look at this little bird. From Chicago comes the story of a married couple who held up home construction to save a bird's nest, and of the construction company who promised to halt work. Brought to us by Tribune's Audrey Pashuta, Ray and Shelley Romalt fancy themselves as good neighbors, and so we're delighted to hear that the empty lot near their Lockport home was going to be turned into a new house. Seeing the sold sign driven into the dirt next door would have been a happy day if it weren't for the fact that the Romalts knew someone had already moved it. Following something of a media storm over endangered Great Lakes piping plovers along Lake Michigan's Montrose Beach, Ray and Shelley had recently taken an interest in their local bird life and noticed that 2 adult killdeer frequented the empty lot next to their house. Taking a walk along the weeds one day, the couple found a nest with 4 speckled killdeer eggs inside. If construction began, they would almost certainly be destroyed. And so, against their years-long wish for new neighbors, the pair began to request that work be postponed. "We want you to stop, just for a month or so," Shelley Robot said her husband told an employee at the development's model home, "and then please build away." Imagine potentially their surprise when a crew that had brought a bulldozer to the lot stood and diligently listened as Ray explained the killdeer was protected federally under the Migratory Bird Treaty. D.R. Houghton, the building contractor whose corporate office Ray then called, suggested phoning the Illinois Department of Natural Resources for confirmation. Shelley did just that and received confirmation that these birds are in fact protected federally, and that the building crew would have to cite a special permit to proceed or would otherwise be liable for penalties. Within a day of their exchange with the conservation police, the Romalt said the site supervisor came to the lot and placed caution tape and cones around the nesting site, assuring them the company would postpone their scheduled dig date until the birds had hatched. The World Conservation Authority, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, downlisted the killdeer from least concern to near threatened in 2024 after reviewing scientific reports that suggested the animal's population would fall 20% over the next 3 generations, probably because of incidents like the one the Romalts sought to avoid. Talk about being good neighbors. Good neighbors to the birds, good neighbors to the environment. I love that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right. Well, some NICU nurses did a really cool thing. They created a children's book to help siblings stay connected to hospitalized babies. Yeah, how great is that? The project, called A Message to My Sibling, was created by 4 nurses at Connecticut's Children's Hospital who wanted to support an often overlooked group during a baby's NICU stay: the siblings waiting at home. When a baby is born prematurely or critically ill, families can spend weeks or even months traveling back and forth to the hospital. For young children, it can be difficult to understand why mom and dad are suddenly spending so much time away and why their new baby sibling cannot come home. The idea for the book grew out of the experiences nurses witnessed firsthand, including one family that traveled long distances to visit their daughter Anna, who was born at just 31 weeks and weighed only 2 pounds, 13 ounces. Wanting to help families stay connected during these challenging moments, the nurses spent years developing the book alongside illustrator Sherry Linhow. The finished coloring book introduces children to the NICU environment in a gentle, age appropriate way. It features coloring pages, explanations of medical equipment, and spaces where older siblings can write messages or draw pictures for their baby brother or sister. It was really about introducing these things without scaring them because it can be scary to see this equipment. One of the most touching features allows children to create artwork and notes that can be displayed in their siblings' hospital room. The pages serve as colorful reminders that a loving family is waiting for them at home. How beautiful is that? Brilliant, brilliant. I'll tell you, we have a lot of brilliant people in our world. I'm so excited to say. Okay, here is a great story, which kind of surprised me when I read it. A New Jersey school requires freshmen to complete a 55-mile Appalachian Trail hike. In a world where many teenagers spend their days connected to screens and surrounded by constant supervision, one New Jersey school has spent more than 5 decades sending students into the wilderness to discover something far more valuable: confidence, resilience, and the power of teamwork. At St. Benedict's Preparatory School in Newark, New Jersey, every freshman is required to complete a challenging 5-day trek along the Appalachian Trail before earning the title of sophomore. For many of the students, the experience pushes them far beyond anything they've ever done before. Some have never gone hiking. Others have never camped outdoors. Yet each year they lace up their boots and set out on a journey that has become one of the school's most cherished traditions. The adventure begins long before students reach the trail. Throughout the spring, freshmen train together through physical conditioning and team building exercises. They are then organized into small groups where every student takes on a specific role, including navigator, medic, cook, camp specialist, or captain. While each participant learns a particular skill, no one student is taught everything needed to complete the journey successfully. The idea is that they have to rely on one another. The only way to get through this is if we work together and make it there, says school administrator Glenn Cassidy. According to Cassidy, the teams spend much of the trek operating on their own with limited adult involvement, an approach that helps students develop leadership and trust in one another. The annual hike has been a rite of passage at the school for 53 years. Yes, rain or shine, the students head out into the mountains and face whatever conditions come their way. In fact, Cassidy says rainy weather can make the experience even more meaningful. When life gets difficult, it's something you can refer back to. You know there's a lot of rainy days in life. When this year's freshmen completed their journey in May, they crossed the finish line tired, sore, and carrying memories that will likely stay with them forever. Their shoes had taken a beating, and some students were covered in bumps and bruises. But the greatest change wasn't visible on the outside. The real destination was never simply the end of the trail, it was the growth that happened along the way. For 5 days, these teenagers learned to depend on each other, push through challenges, and accomplish something they may have once thought was impossible. And that may be the lesson they'll carry far longer than any backpack. Well, that's your good news for this week, June the 12th here. And I am so grateful to be with you every week, sharing these incredible stories that we get from the Good News Network and also from Sunny Skies. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and consider making a donation to ntmedia.org. Keep these programs running, keep this network on the air. We do good work here, and we want you to be a part of it for the long haul. Thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you again next week, and may good news follow you wherever you go. This is Barbara Jean signing off. Bye for now.